Hello and welcome to Evening of the Rising Star. And I am here to tell you epic stories about my life. But before we get into any stories, let me introduce myself. The first thing that you need to know about me is that I am an intuitive theta healer, psychic medium, which means since I was about 5 years old, I have been able to see and hear demons, earthbound spirits, people's higher selves, see auras and other energies in people's bodies and energy fields, access the Akashic records, see other people's future and past lives, see my future and past lives, my guides, other people's guides, past loved ones, and I'm also extremely empathic and enthusiastic. I can also hear spirits, sometimes with my physical ears, but those are not usually fun experiences because mostly scary things talk to you that way. I just kept hearing my name being called in the middle of the night or when I was alone. It was the freakiest experience. Anytime I've heard spirit or a spirit talking to me, it was in a voice in my head. But I have more stories about that and those times later. But I have also had a lot of freaky sci fi things happen to me, which I want to share with you. But also, more on that later. I can also astro travel and lucid dream. A couple times I have done theta healing, which is a type of energy work, while astro traveling. Those were not fun days, but more on that later. So my whole life I have viewed the world through a lens of a very thin veil. The second thing you need to know about me is that my parents, up until I was about 12, were trying to live off grid, which means they did not want anything to do with the government, medical institutions, or educational systems. And because of this, we moved around a lot. I cannot remember staying in one place more than a year. And more often than not, it was like 6 months or less between moves. Oh, yeah. Sometimes we lived in a motorhome that my dad had gutted and built sort of like bunk bed type things in it. And I would go to sleep in one location and then wake up in a totally different one. So, needless to say, we traveled a lot. Before the age of 12, though, I never went to a formal school. My mom taught me how to read and write and add and subtract. Then, in the middle of fifth grade, I finally went to grade school. That is when my mom divorced my dad. That was very hard, but more on that later. So, most of my childhood was going from place to place, but always in areas with little or no other people in the area. It was all about trying to, as far as I could perceive it as a kid, like they didn't want to, they wanted to be independent and self-sufficient. Um, and they wanted to find a place where no one could tell them what to do or bother any of us. And um, very strong on the idea that, you know, the government was going to come get us at any moment, like that really strong belief system. And so, for about the first 12 years of my life, I spent running around a forest or desert with my siblings, with my parents coming and going a lot of the time, and occasionally with other families trying to do the same thing as us. In the beginning of my story, my parents were Mormon. I don't remember them going to church very much. In fact, I only remember going to church once or twice. But my parents did not really seem enthusiastic about the church as far as I could tell. Like, it wasn't like, let's go pray, let's do all this stuff, let's go to church, let's participate in all the activities, let's go. There wasn't any of that, like, at the time. It was just like, I guess we could go to church today, maybe. And then when I was 6 years old, and I remember my sixth birthday very, like, not the whole day, but I remember how old I was when my parents made their next choice. I needed to remember certain moments of my life. And so this was one of those times. But anyway, so my parents decided that what God and Joseph Smith wanted was for them to live polygamy. They were convinced or convinced themselves that in order to get into the highest kingdom of heaven, they had to follow Joseph Smith's decree of plural marriage. And things got really strange in my life. Oh, things were really strange in my life before polygamy, but this is when things got scary and filled with much more anger. Much of what I went through, I'm going to keep to myself. But I am going to share some of those stories with you in the future. I want to tell you these stories in hopes of spreading hope to others that do not feel like they can keep going. I want to tell you now what my guides repeat to me over and over again when I'm feeling in despair. This too shall pass. As annoying as that got, I appreciate the reminder that eventually this, whatever it is, will pass and I will be okay. I want to share the advice that I get from my guides in hopes that it helps you too. I want to be a light that shines in the darkness and touches you with compassion and love. And I want to remind you that you're not alone and that someone is there for you and loves you. Thanks so much for your time. And I hope you guys have a really good day today. Bye.